Hi everyone, I'm Kenzie. I'm this disorganized in real life, I promise. Sorry. Uh, I'm going to talk about a day in the life of me as a graduate at StatsNZ. So just a bit about me. I'm actually a science student I did my master's in genetics of human tuberculosis. Seems like a bit of a jump, less than you'd think. Lots of data involved in that. I did that at the University of Waikato, so I'm a Waipa kid. It's very weird being in beautiful windy Wellington without cows. No cows. So weird. I'm a serial volunteer. That's probably the most important thing you should know about me. I am a cub and a scout kaiarahi. That's probably my favorite role if I had to pick. And I actually have a picture here of the scarf that I was given as a going away present. So all of the Cub Scouts at my last group signed it. Made my week when I got this in the mail. When I'm not volunteering, though, I am a graduate analyst in the Wealth and Expenditure team at StatsNZ, and I actually got this role through the Analytics and Research in Government graduate program. Now, that will be covered later, I think 320, so I'm not going to be talking about it. But I will say that a graduate program is a great way of getting even more support, and I think that was covered before. But I'll say it again because it's true. But StatsNZ already has a lot of support available and a lot of personal and professional development opportunities and some amazing training, which is probably why it won best in the public sector as a graduate employer and actually number 12 overall sectors. So kind of awesome. So what's it like working at a number one employer? I'll start at the beginning. My day, I wake up, obviously. Then I decide whether I'm going to go into the office or not. So that's sort of a unicorn cup, travel mug sort of a decision. And then I'll set up my workspace. So I've got a picture here of it, my desk looks like. I took this picture yesterday. That's sort of what I like to have as a setup. Uh, Otherwise, if I'm working from home, it's very complicated. I roll out of bed and set up my Surface Pro. Very complicated. And then I check in on Microsoft Teams. We've got a bit of a team chat going, just letting everyone know where we're working because everything's very flexible. Are you in the office? Are you from home? Are you in Taupo? And I'll also check my calendar, figure out what my meetings are. And of course, I don't know how in the hours while I'm logged out, there are so many emails that come in the morning, but I'll check my emails and then I'll finally get down to work. So the question is, what do I actually do? And I am being a little bit light here with this slide, but it's not wrong. Uh, the XKCD here in the bottom right, it's accurate. I wait a while for my code to run, and that's time I spend doing other things like making this meme. True story. But being serious, this is how you can basically break down my workday into these 4 areas. So this data, it'll be things like I love coding in R, and I love graphs and tables. So I get to do a lot of that. And then there's writing, and that's something else I really enjoy. So that's things like news stories and reports, but it's more than that as well. Meeting minutes and humdrum things like notes to self in a million little WordPad notes because I will otherwise forget what I'm doing. I will note that not everyone in my team does both. Some people are data nerds and some people are communicators. I just happen to be both. Then there's networking. I used to roll my eyes when people would say networking, but turns out it's mostly just chatting, and I am a chatterbox. So that's stuff like when you're getting a cup of tea, talking to other people in the office, learning about other teams. It's also things like this stuff afternoon quiz really is, people are obsessed with it. Then there's things like my graduate program. At the moment, there are 8 of us over 6 different government departments, and we all work in data, so our work does overlap, and we're able to help each other out, which is really cool. But also different agencies have different ways of working. So this is a great opportunity to make different contacts across the sector, but also to learn how other parts of the sector deal with different problems and how they process things, which is really valuable. The other part of my day, probably the largest part of my work, if I'm honest, is I'm going to call it analysis and acronyms. Acronyms are a big deal at Stats. They're everywhere. It's a learning curve and a common joke. But I do a lot of things like asking questions, checking numbers, getting checked, proofreading, being proofread, emailing people like, I don't know you, I've never met you, could you please help me with this? Thanks. And lots of IT requests and meetings, which get a bad rep, but I like them. Quite fun here. And it all sort of fits into a week like this. So mentioned flexible working before. You work 37 and a half hours a week at StatsNZ, and you're only really expected in between 10 and 2. How you structure your other hours is entirely up to you. So for me, you can see that for the first half of the week, I've got stuff on in the evening. So I usually leave around 3, and that gives me time to do adulty things like the laundry and meal prep. Then, I mean, I usually like to come in between 8 and 9 every day, but on a Thursday, you can see I'm usually coming in around 10. And the reason for that is because Cubs exhausts me. They drag me up hills, and it's Wellington, so they're actually cliffs. So I'm pretty tired on a Thursday morning. So I come in a bit later. And that's all right. You know, it's really flexible. There's structure, but there's room to grow in it. And so a little bit more detail on that. If my team's got a project, and I will be talking about projects in a bit, uh, you know, we might have a team meeting about that. That could be on a Monday. Tuesdays, we have a team meeting that's regular and it's about organization level stuff, it's about manager stuff. We'll whinge about COVID. I actually practiced this presentation yesterday. That's the team meeting. And then on a Wednesday, it tends to be a bit chill and meeting light. And the reason is my manager works from home. So I get to really focus on more detailed work on a Wednesday usually. Uh, Most people in my team will work from home at least 1 day a week, even when COVID's not a problem. So it's sort of very flexible. Then on a Thursday, there are quite a few catch-ups. My graduate program and my team both have social events on a Thursday within the same hour, but like one's earlier, one's later in the hour, where you will be just playing games and socializing and just chatting. Because if we're not all in the office, we don't get to have that face-to-face organic interaction, you know? So we have time put aside for that. And also, you have a catch up with your manager once a week. That could be on a Thursday, it does move around a bit. My manager's awesome, but he's really busy. Then on a Friday, we often have graduate program workshops, not always, but often it is on a Thursday. And we also have a once a month graduate program formal hui, and that could also be on a Friday. Again, it moves a bit. But I did promise you that I would talk about projects. So here we go. I came into the wealth and expenditure team just as they were about to release the stuff on net worth. So that's really about how wealth is distributed across New Zealand households. Really fascinating and important stuff. So I wrote that little news story, and it was on the front page of the website for a bit, which made me really excited. And I wrote that in my first few weeks. So you can start making an impact right away, which was like really cool. At the moment, I've just wrapped up a data exploration thing. So someone asked a question, it was an information request about our data that we just released. And in order to answer that more detailed question, I coded, 2,400 lines at last count, which was about a week and a half ago. It is much larger now, possibly double in size. And I love doing this. It was really cool to code this. it makes it very hard for me to close down at the end of the day because I'm itching to do more. So you'll notice that I don't have a slide about the end of my day because it's my least favorite part. And yeah, in the future, I'll be doing surveys as well, which is really cool. This is the beginning of my journey at StatsNZ. There's so much more I want to do. So I made a quick list. D&D, there's apparently a group here. If I can find them, I will talk to them and I will play with them. There's also the social club. They do some amazing things like Zealandia trips and pizza nights. Haven't managed to catch up with them yet. I'll do so. Upskilling, that's really important at StatsNZ. Learning is something that they love to empower people to do, and I love learning. Match made in heaven. Uh, Cultural competency is one of those things that I want to upskill in, actually. It's important here. We have a stats waiata, we have karakia on our lanyards. They do get used. I want to get better than just being able to say a couple of words in te reo, so I will be taking a course as soon as I can. I also want to work with other teams and hang out with my team more. My team is really super friendly, and I'd like to talk a little bit about that. My team's really friendly and supportive, and this is a picture of them here, most of them, and that was before I arrived. That was at the Christmas party. But it's not just my team. There's a culture here of helping each other out and checking in to make sure that everyone's all right, that the workload's okay, that everyone's helping everyone else. It's really awesome. The values are genuinely upheld, and that's awesome. They're not just for decoration. Part of that is that I'm in control of my own waka. So I am supported to make informed choices about my day, my projects, and my career path. My skills, my values, and my development are all valued. I'm bringing my whole self to work and contributing with my whole self. So everyone is working towards the same goal with their own uniqueness. It's just a more organic way of working. It's more natural and it's so much more efficient and pleasant. So I suppose all I really have to say is that it has so far been amazing and it's only going to get better from here. I would greatly recommend, if you are as excited about working with StatsNZ as I am, Charlotte's going to be dropping a link in the chat for, it's like an expression of interest. So if you want to hear more about roles that are probably starting at the end of the year, you'll be let know about that by Charlotte in June. So click the link, fill it out, do it. You won't regret it. Awesome. Do
Thanks,
we have any
Kenzie.
questions?
We have actually got one question that's come in. That was awesome. The question is, what's the most challenging part of being a graduate analyst?
Oh, I would probably, I'd probably say the learning curve, but it's not in an unpleasant way. Like there is a lot to learn here, but you are really supported in learning and I'm not rushed at all. I've never felt like I've been thrown in the deep end. It's a really cool environment to learn in, but it's probably the hardest part is feeling like, I don't know what I'm doing, help. But they've been just so amazing about that.
Are there any other questions? Oh, I think there's one. Oh, what made you decide to pivot from science to stats and analytics?
Well, I suppose in some ways it's a bit of, it's not really much of a pivot. My project was very much data focused, and I've always really liked coding. That's something that I picked up in high school. But I never really thought that I was the coding type, you know? I've always been interested in biology, thought I'd become a researcher. And then I got this project that was unexpected, and I realized this is what I want to keep doing. I love spreadsheeting and talk about whole self. I did talk about this in my application, is that I spreadsheet as a hobby. And now I've got a job where that actually, that's my job. My hobby is my job. So I'm not sure it was much of a pivot.
I've also just seen a question come in about whether international students can apply for jobs at StatsNZ. So yes, provided you've got the work visa, then yes. Oh, and there's another question. What was the application and onboarding process like?
So I did go through ARG, and that was, yeah, we had some like psychometric tests, and there was a video that we had to do. And then the interesting part, I think, comes in when it was to the interview stage. So, I mean, psychometric tests were pretty basic. There was a question about it before, so I'll quickly touch on it. It's just things like basic numeracy and like literacy skills. It wasn't too pressury, if I'm honest, and they're not supposed to be. But then the interesting part was the interview. So before I got told, okay, this is a data set that we've just published that the team has worked on. Please write something that you found interesting in sort of like a release style. And then you get to talk about it in the interview. I loved that. That was something I really enjoyed because it was writing and it was data, and you really got to do stuff, and it's stuff that I'm doing now. So it's really quite applicable. So I think that's something that you can expect from StatsNZ, is that if you're asked to do something before the interview, like a presentation or a writing assignment, it will be quite indicative of the work that you're going to be doing, which is really nice. And then when it came to actually arriving here at StatsNZ, the initiation stuff, it's been really simple. The entire team has helped. There's this idea that you're supposed to have like a mentor and a buddy, but really everyone's been helping out, and that's been really good. So it's just, yeah, it's been a very nice welcome. Hope that answers the question.
Thanks so much, Kenzie, for jumping on today. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but that was really insightful. So thanks once again for jumping on and sharing your insights. Really interesting, and great engagement from the students online as well. That was awesome.